Hi everyone, happy Sunday. I guess this is a good thing. My equipment is not working with me this week. Uh, so I'm going to start like the actual video here in a minute, but I did want to do an intro because originally I had different footage of a picture I was coloring. My desktop computer stopped working after I'd recorded that. I was all foaming at the mouth that day anyway because of other issues, so I went ahead and recorded the audio here on my laptop and figured I would add in coloring some pictures this week. So normally when I'm doing a voiceover, I'm referencing the pictures. However, this time I just recorded the audio because I was in a prime mood for it. And then it took like a week to get some footage to put with that, so you're not just listening. It's not a podcast. You should see me coloring some actual pictures, but did want to note that I'm coloring, the first picture you'll see is out of Mystery Cats by Hache Pratique, I think is the official name. I color, I think, the first image out of this book with King Art acrylic paint pens. I do the first layer on camera, then I go back over it in a second layer. I'll show you the finished pictures at the end. I had some time left because I said a lot of things. And so this picture I had based in alcohol marker. Unfortunately gave the hedgehog a sunburned look with a bright pink marker. Fixed that, and then finished out the picture with some shading with some Derwent pastel pencils, the supply, not like pastel colors. You see me use the pastel pencils, and then I just shade it and smudge it with a Q-tip. It's a very quick process, as you will see. Um, and you see me finish that picture as well. So I don't know what day I recorded. It might have been Monday or Tuesday last week, so don't get confused if I say if it's another day of the week, that's why. I also sat on this video a little bit because I don't normally post controversial stuff, but thanks to this tag and to Color Mom 360, I think is right. I will have it in the description to be sure for this tag because there are some things that really rankle me. And I had a lot to say about the tag itself, and then I had a little bit of extra at the end. So I will try to post timestamps for those of you that are interested in the different things. Um, I will say at the end of the day, most of my beef is with companies, corporations, businesses, algorithms, how businesses are run and how they do their things online, and in terms of like coloring supplies, coloring books, and so on. That's mostly where my beef lies. It does not lie with individual people, except if you're judging other people because they're not using the right supplies or the right coloring books or whatever they're doing. They're not a real colorist. Any type of snobbery like that just drives me crazy. If you are one of those people, no, I have beef with you too. But uh, for the most part, most of my stuff is not against people individually. I am very much a live and let live kind of person where if I don't like something and somebody is using it in their coloring pages, I will like and comment on those as much as I would anybody else's. I don't care. Just because I don't like a company doesn't mean that I judge anybody that uses their products or anything like that. I use products of a lot of companies I don't like because, you know, things are people's people have budgets and our options are unfortunately limited for a lot of reasons that I could do a whole nother video on and rant about, but the algorithm's already not going to like this one. So anyway, to digress, I say that, and I just say if you get upset or defensive at something I say other than what I've already stated, I'm not judging anyone for using something I have a problem with or coloring in a book that I have a problem with the people that publish that book. I You do what you want to do, and I promise I have no judgment about your personal decisions. Uh, and that's why it's an unpopular opinion. Um, but just don't, like, try not to take it personally. We seem to have a real problem with that these days on social media, and it's one of the reasons I hesitate to make these statements because people tend to not see them for what they are and take them as a personal judgment against themselves. And that is, not, with the one exception I just noted, that is not the point of this. So I say all that to say let's move on to the fun stuff. And I will have a small clip at the end to show you the finished pictures. Hi everyone, happy Monday, maybe going into Tuesday at this point. I'm not sure when I'm going to schedule this video. This video is being done a little differently than I normally do. Normally I will color a picture, then I will do a voiceover with it, and I had the video recorded and I was getting ready to do the voiceover, and my desktop that I thought was okay is not okay. So while I have that footage, it's not, I can't access it. So this time, what I'm going to do is do the audio first and then put the picture with it. Because let me tell you, if I'm going to do an unpopular opinions tag, now is the time to do it, because I I have been pretty grumpy this morning. We were without power for a while because they are upgrading, I think, our like electric poles and wiring outside. Not their fault at all. We were down only about 2 hours, so they seem very efficient, and I am not knocking the linemen or the contractors that are doing the work. I'm just saying that um, it's been pretty warm this week, and I was already getting hot due to lack of air and irritated. And it just seems like nothing's going right this morning. So I am already in a uh, fighty mood. So, what better time to do an unpopular coloring opinions tag? I've been wanting to do this for a while. So I'm coloring in a book. I have not chosen the book yet, but more than likely I am coloring with paint pens and some kind of art therapy type book by Hashtag Heroes. If not, you'll see it in the description. You'll see it in the picture. I'm just coloring as I go along for something to see in the background while I rant and rave. I've listened to a lot of these, and I do, this is a very challenging tag for me because I feel like ultimately I get maddest at gatekeeping hobbies. And, like, to me, that's an unpopular opinion because it feels like a whole lot of people in the world are so judgmental and get so bent out of shape when people don't color a certain way or do things a certain way that they feel like is the only acceptable way. And people get so bent out of shape. And I'm one of those people who I'm like, I don't care what you do as long as it makes you happy. So I don't like to gatekeep coloring things. So, like, this felt a challenge for me. And you'll see as I go through it, I guess I'm being a little bit rebellious with this tag in that, yes, I will give answers that are specific to me. Um, and there's going to be some controversial things in here. But on the higher level, the disclaimer I give now and that I will give throughout the video is that ultimately, if something I don't like is something you like and it makes you happy, I could care less, and I don't mean it in a mean way. I just mean I'd rather you be happy. And if something I don't like is something you prefer, then I'm not yucking your yum. I'm just merely doing my own little mini rant from my perspective. But at the end of the day, if I see your picture and it's out of a book I don't like or something like that, more than likely I'm going to love it. And I will go on with my life. More than likely, I will Unless you want to discuss something, I will never make a negative comment on somebody's video. And I'm never going to make a negative comment on somebody's video unless it's from a discussion standpoint. So I say all that to say I may make some controversial statements here, but ultimately, if again, I'm not yucking anybody's yum. If you like something I don't like or I rant about, at the end of the day, no judgment here towards you personally. Most of my beef is with corporations and companies, which I will talk about. So I'm going to go through the questions. And then at the end, I'm going to have some extra, like, what really grinds my gears, because if this is, and I don't know if these are necessarily unpopular opinions, but this is, most of the time I try to keep my videos not very controversial. Not that I don't want people to be aware of what's going on and talk about it, but because there's so much in the world that's hitting us every day on social media. Like, it just, breaking news, breaking news. It's always bad news, right? Like, there's always something all day long that keeps hitting us. And so I'm trying to make my videos more of a distraction. But since this is kind of a controversial tag, or can be, depending on how you do it, I figured this would be a good time to get out some of my rants. So you'll get a little extra bonus rant at the end, or set of rants, on things that really bother me. Couple things too to note: I have been coloring since 2018. There are a lot of trends and a lot of things that I've seen change over the years that I'll probably reference, that also, probably influence my opinions and my thoughts, based on how I've seen things change in the past, what, 8 years? It'll be 8 years in June. Okay, I've lost my questions. Hang on. All right, so questions are from, this is another tag from Color Mama 360, and I will put these in the description. So this first one's pretty straightforward. What's a super popular coloring book you don't connect with? Fantasy and Folklore by Emily Lighthall Oberg. I actually have the original version of that book that was difficult to find because it was in another language. I'm not sure what it was. And so it was hard to find. It went out of print. And I have it because I learned a lot over the years about, fear of missing out and then buying stuff. And obviously, this is a question for later. And then realizing I don't necessarily like the art. I think it's all the lines in the art. Kind of like Millie Murata style, where it's just, I can't see it at the big picture level. I see all these individual lines and areas I have to color in individually. But I see other people do the pages and I'm like, these look beautiful. But it's just not really my style. So yeah, that one, there's not a whole lot extra on that one. That's just a straightforward answer. Two, do you prefer simple or highly detailed pages? Okay, you're not going to be satisfied with this answer, but it's pretty much right in the middle. If you get a cute and cozy coloring book that has huge areas on the paper to fill, I don't particularly like that. That's one reason. Unless I'm doing a color by number Disney type page, I don't really like doing the Disney coloring, because you're filling in like a big space with usually a specific color or whatever, and you're trying to do it in the Disney style. And it's hard for me to disconnect from that. But like really simple pages, I don't have the time usually to put a whole lot into making them as detailed as I would like. So they feel empty. Highly detailed pages completely overwhelm me. So I was referencing like cute and cozy for like very simple pages. And when I say a simple page, I mean like a landscape page, a little picture of a cat or something like that. Those are fine. But a page where people turn it into something highly detailed. But it's a very simple picture with not a lot of details to start with. Like, I just don't have the time or patience. It's not really my jam to do that, and I don't think I would feel satisfied just coloring it as is. But highly detailed stuff like mythographic, especially when you have bits and pieces, like Kirby Rosanna's early work, mythographic is like this, where you have a lot of details that kind of end and other things begin, and it's hard for you to tell where things end and begin. Drive me crazy. I don't like I know I should just do those in stages, and I'm going to work on it. It is a challenge that I want to challenge myself with, but when I am trying to, I'm very limited in my time that I can color, so it's like if I look at a highly detailed page, most of the time I get really overwhelmed. Um, so so that is my answer there, is kind of in the middle. Um, some details, just enough to allow me to do some interesting things if I feel like it, but if not, then still detailed enough that I feel like it's a wholly complete page. So, um, all right, where are we at? 10 minutes in. 3, do you prefer alcohol markers or colored pencils? I don't like this question because there's so much more than just alcohol markers or colored pencils. This is also where my autistic tendencies go, well, it depends, this is like, is there is there something to my head? Like, is somebody telling me how to choose or face the consequences? Like, I guess if I had to do that, like if I had infinite money, infinite access to supplies, I wasn't in a situation where I ever had to worry about it. And if they dried out, I could just toss them and buy new ones and not have to worry about money. I would say alcohol markers. They are the biggest payoff in the shortest amount of time for me. They are easy on my hands and my arms where I have tendonitis and various like carpal tunnel pain issues, chronic health issues. They are blendable if I feel like it. They are just straight color if I feel like it, or flat color, however you want to put it. Um, and yeah, so at the end of the day, if I had to pick between these two, I would say alcohol markers. Colored pencils, I love and I want to love more, but I have to be very picky about them. You wouldn't think it looking at my shelves, but I need softer colored pencils because my hands, I don't use them as often. Most of the time, I will base stuff in marker before I go over it with pencils. So this question could be both. If I was on a desert island and I only could bring one type of supply with me, then it would change to colored pencils because if your alcohol markers dry out, then you're just kind of screwed. So, again, this is a really depends kind of question. Plus, there are so many other things that I love to use, watercolor pencils, watercolors, paint markers, gel pens, like, there's so many other things here. So, that's sort of my answer. 4, is it okay to have whips or not? This is another, a lot of people like whips. I've seen this love bombing thing. I think it was coloring by Maya, where you just color certain things on pages depending on what you want to color, and that I guess creates a lot of whips. And I guess the emphasis is you're just enjoying the coloring experience without having to necessarily finish a page. And it should motivate you also maybe to come back to that page. And I think that's a great idea. And I wish me as a person could be that loose and with my coloring. And that's really truly where I need to be. But whips for me are very problematic in that if I don't get to them within a couple weeks, like they are long term whips. If I ever get back to them, I've got like 3 or 4 sitting there, been sitting there for years. And they do like make me feel a sense of shame because I want to see the pictures finished. I'm not really satisfied with where they're at, and just like, okay, I colored these. I don't like where this picture's going. I'm just going to abandon it. It's not like that. Like, these could be really fantastic pictures if I could just find the time to finish them. And that's where the basing becomes problematic. If I'm trying to add pencil over the top, basing a picture is easy. I can put, watercolor, marker, whatever down. But then I let it dry, and then I'm like, okay, I'll come back with pencils. If I don't come back quickly with pencils, then again, it gets kind of shoved to the back of the box, so to speak. So for me, they're not great, but I think the concept of just coloring what you like, being okay with coloring for fun, not necessarily having to finish a page, that kind of open love bombing concept with the pages. And love bombing could be like a negative connotation, so I don't know how I feel about that phrase, depending on how you use it. But again, I think it's a great way to be. It's something I should probably challenge myself to do more, but I'm just concerned I'll have a bunch of whips and I'll just be even madder at the end of it. Um, what's one illustrator style that isn't for you? I love seeing everybody else's creativity on these pictures. I love the artist. I love the art itself. It's just not something I want to color, and that's any book by Carla Magana. It's just not my style. It's a little abstract, and I think that's why I'm not huge on abstract. I have my moments and my exceptions, but for the most part, I don't necessarily like abstract. I prefer just more um, if you're going to have people, having them in like settings and stuff like that, or I don't necessarily prefer just people either. I do like, there are exceptions again, like Deborah Muller does people a lot, but she has other things going on the pages that make them interesting. Hannah Lynn, uh, her books that have just people in them, I don't necessarily like as much as the people in various scenes. But I don't do portraits very much either. So any portrait. So I also thought of this as just specific things I don't like to color. I don't like portraits. And this is, I know, just absolutely scandalous to say in mermaid, but I am not a big fan of mermaids. I don't know. They're just, and when I say this again, there are always exceptions, and that's because there are a lot of artists out there, and they're very creative on certain subjects, and there are certain styles that they will approach with this that I like. I do have like the, what's it called, Senior Sirens by Deborah Muller. I love the concept of a bunch of senior mermaids. Like, I love that. Stuff like that that's done a little differently. I don't love mermaids. I don't love unicorns. Again, I have a few exceptions to that. And I really don't like coloring food, like ever. Especially even if it's food animals, I don't particularly like it though. Again, there are exceptions. There are some cats like that are kind of food items that I really like. There was a Coloring Heaven book that came out with some by a particular artist. I can't think of her name, but I ended up buying the actual book she had. I really liked like the cats that were sushi. They just looked really mad. The hamburger cat, like again, there are exceptions there, but those are kind of the things that I'm just not a big fan of. Oh, let's see. Do you think adult coloring books are getting too repetitive? Um, I think the and I'll answer this question in more detail later. I think the cute and cozy one is getting a little too repetitive. I don't think so, and the reason I say this is because each artist kind of brings their own unique style. As long as they're bringing their own unique take to something, like if it's fairy tales, bunch of artists do, all kinds of different artists do fairy tales, and there are some like fairy tales and folklore is not really my thing, but fairy tales by Kirby Rosanna's The Dark Fairy Tales, I really like that concept. So I love that they're, as long as you realize that there's a lot of artists out there and a lot of different ways they can approach these subjects. And there's so many things out there to draw and do. And so I don't think it's necessarily repetitive in that, but I do think trends can become repetitive. Particularly, I think the cute and cozy has just been going for a while now, and it's had its day. But I'll talk about that later. That is another question down here. 7. Are limited edition hard to find books overhyped? I'm including both books and supplies here. Limited edition books, hard to find books. I don't, again, not gatekeeping. If you want to pay $200 for a book and you love it, or you just want it for your collection to look at, to say, look, I have an expensive book. I I don't care. I mean, good for you. I'm thrilled for you. You want to show it off on your channel? Excellent. I will sit there and look at it and love the pictures along with you and be happy that you got it. But so I don't think they're overhyped in regards to that. It does bother me when they are released as limited edition. I think there's one artist in particular that I also kind of go back and forth on her art. It's the Gnomes in the Neighborhood, Denise something. She had like mermaids and then like gnomes in the neighborhood. And like weirdly, her books were only available for a short period of time, and now suddenly they're not available anymore. Like I don't think that's cool. I think you should. You don't necessarily have to have your book available for like, the next 20 years, but I also feel like just having it available for a year or two really cuts off a lot of people's availability and access to it. Books that are hard to find, like Japanese or Korean coloring books, books that are printed in another language, things like that. Um, I don't like how difficult they are to purchase, but that's not necessarily like our fault. I think that is a corporation issue and a company issue I'm going to rant about later. Um, so no, I don't think they're necessarily overhyped. I just don't think they're very cool. I don't love that. I don't love that books go out of print, then suddenly people are selling their books for $300. And I know people are like, oh, supply and demand. You just set it to what people will pay. But I feel like that's just taking, like, okay, I bought a book for $20, it went out of print, and now people are selling it for $300. Sure, I'll sell it for 80, I'll sell it for 100. I'm not saying don't take advantage of that if you simply just don't want the book or you want to make some money off of it. But I feel like, $300 is like, oh, come on. Like really. Um, anyway, so that's my feel there. But again, I am not anyways banker or financial person. If that's what you want to do and it makes you happy, I'm certainly not going to say they're overhyped. In regards to that, I don't know what kind of answer that was. Limited edition supplies. Oh, I'm going to talk about that later. Really grinds my gears. Those I think are overhyped and they really piss me off. Okay, next question. Are color alongs overrated or underrated? I think they're underrated. My problem is I see a lot of color alongs by like RJ Hampson, by Elm Colors, Coloring Bumblebee. A lot of these people that I think are fantastic, artists in their own right, colorists. I see them, and in my head, I go, okay, I'm going to save that for later. I'm going to come back and do that. And the problem is, I never have time to come back and do that. So I want to do them. I think they are a fantastic asset to have. I agree with a lot of people. The few I've done, it is a lot of time and effort putting in keeping up with what you're coloring with. how you're coloring with it, showing techniques, stuff like that. Video editing, they are some of the most intensive work videos, but you get such little payoff for those in terms of views or anything compared to like a haul video or a flip through video. So I do think those are underrated. Number 9. What's your opinion on overconsumption in the coloring world? I think people need to mind their own business. I don't have tea, I have coffee, but like, here's the tea. People just need to mind their own business and focus on their own lives. I'm taking a drink of said coffee. I get that um, the influencer thing ticks me off. Like they're showing the newest, latest, and greatest from all these companies that are constantly putting out new products. And they're getting them for free and showing them and trying to make money off of, I guess, if you buy them through their page and use their codes and stuff. And they're getting money from selling the product and stuff. Like, I don't like that. I don't like me personally. I don't necessarily like that. I don't I've learned over time through my own trial and error that there are some things that I've spent money on for fear of missing out. And like any hobby, there are influencers, there are companies, there are all kinds of people that are going to try to convince you that you have to have this one particular product and you have to have it in this one particular style and what you have to color in this one particular way to really be a colorist and do this and that, and then oh, now you need this other product to add to your page to make it better, and then you need this other one, and now we have a 120 set instead of a 72 set, so now you need to buy the 120 set because we're not going to make the other 72 pencils available on their own. Oh no, why would we do that? That's crazy. So and then you wind up with a whole bunch of markers that are dried out because you didn't have enough time to use them all. A lot of the supplies, fortunately, like books and supplies, most supplies aren't going to dry up unless it's some like a wet medium. So like pencils will last, books will last. Um, I oh my gosh, this is so funny. So like I think at the end of the day, if you're able to pay your bills and feed your family and yourself and take care of yourself and like your pets and stuff, and you're not creating a fire hazard through like a hoarding issue or some issue like that, just let people have their hobbies and their collections. Um, the only thing I would say, in regards to that when it comes to not even overconsumption as a whole, but when you're buying products, I would say, if you go into it's not necessarily because you're overconsuming, but just so you don't waste your money. What I would say is I think people need it's hard to step back when people are trying to sell you whole sets of things and be like, oh, I need this whole set, but you haven't even tried it to see if you like it. Maybe it's a new type of supply or something. Maybe see if there's an open stock option where you can buy a few pencils or a few markers and try them that way and see if you like them before you invest in the whole set. Um, the whole set syndrome is a thing. I've been around for 8 years. Trust and believe. I speak from a room that has 12 to 15 color pencil sets alone. We're not going to talk about the watercolors, watercolor pencils, the markers, the acrylic pens. This is through 8 years of collecting, though, mind you, and my consumption has really fallen off, not because I have an issue with overconsumption, but just because I simply have everything I need and I don't really need anything new. Um, but I would say, look at it more of a mindfulness exercise. Don't let people convince you you need the full set if you haven't even tried out a few, and see if you can do that first. Um, Especially if it's a new type of supply that you've never used before. Um, if they're trying to get you into like the Disney coloring books, try one. And I know that's so hard to say. And I'm not saying I've been able to do that myself over the years. I'm better about it now. It's kind of been a learned practice, especially if it's something that could dry out, like gouache that's already, that's not in a tube, alcohol markers, water-based markers, anything, just distress ink, stuff like that. Acrylic paints, depending on the quality, they may dry out after a certain number of years and stuff like that. I would be more mindful of, just so you don't lose that and have to throw it away and waste money. And then so I say that from a saving you some money perspective, not necessarily because I think people are over consuming. So, again, not going to gatekeep people, on that. If people want to do big haul videos all the time and show you all the new things they've got, um, while I know that that puts pressure on people to buy, I also know at the end of the day, you ultimately control your decisions and what you do with your money. So just because somebody showed you a new, Holbein $600 pencil set that you really want, and you go buy it and you couldn't afford it, it's not that person's fault that showed you that pencil set. It's your fault. It's ultimately your decision. Um, we are all, should all be mostly grown ups, and teenagers that watch this. So, anyway, I'm sure I'll have more to say on that later, but I just let people, what, there are people that collect stuff just to collect it. There are people that collect or buy stuff to color. There are people that buy stuff to collect because they want the whole set. There is no right or wrong way to color. There's no right or wrong way to collect coloring supplies. There's no, like, just let people like what they like. I think it's just ridiculous. Spend your time coloring and doing things that make you happy instead of getting mad over what somebody else has. Like, don't don't spend your days like that. Then you're miserable. The person that's got the supplies, you're trying to make them miserable and be a bully. And, at the end of the day, they're still going to be over there doing what they're doing. And then you're going to be over here just even more miserable. So, why do that, right? Like, don't do that to yourself. 10, what's one popular supply you don't think is worth the money? Oh boy, we gonna have a fun time with this one. All right, first off, it ain't gonna just be one thing. Um, Specifically for me, okay, was the Karen Dash Neo Color 2's full set. The original full set of like 84 or something like that. Let me tell you why. Because I don't, they dissolve really well on paper. They go down really smoothly on paper. I don't like the colors. I don't think they're light enough. I generally tend to use watercolor type stuff as a base to add darker colors on top of. So mostly I need light colors instead of medium and dark colors. So I don't, the colors frustrate me. I don't feel like they're pigmented enough. I watched a video yesterday where somebody did layers and layers of the Neocolor 2s, and they, scribbled one layer and then the next one they took, like, and I'm not going to name the person's video, but I mean, it still turned out pretty, but the second layer they were like taken directly off the pencil, and it's just, and then some people will go over it with colored pencil just to darken it up, and I'm like, okay, this is fussy. It's because it's fussy. um, I have a limited time to color, and I don't want it, especially because backgrounds aren't my favorite thing to do. I don't want to spend all my time on the background and then just have to slap together something on the rest of the page because I'm already irritated with it. I have a limited amount of time I want to spend on a page, no matter how fussy I get into it. And if I reach a point where it's getting really fussy and I'm like only 70% done with it and I don't want to do it anymore, I will just rush it and probably end up messing something up. So it just feels fussy to me to get a good result with those. There are some people that is their stem, that is their zone. They love the layers and it's kind of like with certain pencils like Faber-Castell pencils where the polychromos where you do layers and layers and layers and slowly create shading. Some people that is their jam, that is what makes them happy. Again, this is not about gatekeeping or judging anybody. I saw Elm Colors do a tutorial with her Neo Colors the other day, and I still want to try them. I mean, I still have the set. I'm not getting rid of it at this point. Um, though I could probably make a mint considering Karen Dash prices right now. Um, but I still want to challenge myself with them. I still want to try to find ways to use them. But I'm telling y'all, you can get just as good results, if not better results, in a lot of cheaper, different ways than spending an exorbitant amount on Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s. Regular watercolors will do it. Watercolor pencils. Ink tints is fantastic because you get a more intense color with it and you don't have to build up layers as much. Now, that is a more permanent type of option. Um, I tend to treat pages with what's called satin glazing liquid. There's clear gesso, there's watercolor ground. That allows any water mediums to blend easier. I do that and use watercolor a lot. I use Faber-Castell gelatos. I have gel crayons. There are so many cheaper options with water mediums that can give you a pretty background like that without you having to specifically get the Neocolor 2s. Like I think they're great to use, and if you enjoy using them, they're fantastic. But if you're just looking to create some quick backgrounds with water and like blending colors and stuff, there's a whole lot of different ways out there you can achieve that, especially in a double-sided page without spending that much money. And I say that about all Caran d'Ache products right now. I don't know what is going on. I don't know if, at least US prices, I don't know if it's due to the tariff nonsense. I don't know if what it's due to, but like every Caran d'Ache product right now is ridiculously priced. And it stinks because my favorite watercolor pencil is the Caran d'Ache Supercolor. And but there's no way I would pay that, what was it, like $400 for the 120 set? Like there's no way I would recommend that to anybody. That's like stupid prices on Caran d'Ache products right now. Um Also controversial. I'll say another product. Okay, I'm going to say this right now. I have the full set of Copic sketch markers, and there are a lot of people that I know have flagged those as the overhyped product. And this is another situation of you like what you like. If you want to invest in stuff, that's great. I invested in Copics before COVID and like during COVID, before the prices really went up. I got the full set of them, and then I just got all the refills this past year because I use alcohol markers a lot. I hate when they dry out, and I want to have markers I can refill, and I want to have all those colors available to me. So, yes, they are highly priced, and that's again where I'm saying I'm not yucking anybody's yum. Um, I love the markers. The shade variety in the Copic sketch so far to this point is unmatched in terms of I can get such subtle light colors and then I can get super dark colors and like everything in between. So I say this as a Copic sketch girly who has invested in high budget items, and that's why I'm saying, it all comes down to whether you like it and whether you use it as to whether or not it's overhyped. Um, I think the Ohuhu markers are a bit overhyped. And I say that because that is all I see out there. And they were silly priced. I won't go so far as say stupid priced, but like last Christmas and like last year, oh my gosh, there were no other markers in existence when it came to social media. Everybody was pushing, well, except for like gravy and some of the other stuff once alcohol markers kind of became trendy. But like in terms or acrylic markers, alcohol markers, like you would think Ohuhus were the only things that existed. And at one point, they were like dollar 50 a marker or something like that. And they were just stupid price last year. And that's all anybody hawked was Ohuhu. Now, I have a 216 set of Ohuhus. I like them. They do blend. I would say if you're looking for a blendable marker and you actually blend with your markers, um, Ohuhu probably has enough markers to rival like a Copic situation. Um, but I think the prices, if you're going to offer markers at that level, at that price, you should have all the refills for your markers available. Because how long have they been hollering about refills? And then they still don't have all the refills. And all of you that are complaining about Copic are now like, oh, but I go get Copic refills for my markers because they don't have them ready yet for Ohuhu. Now, wait a minute. Because you're doing that, now you're driving the price of the Copic refills up. Like, again, I am not judging anybody that does that because that would irritate me too. If I invested in like the full Ohuhu set, Honolulu, how, like, there's like what, five different types of markers at this point. And that's a gripe. That's another gripe. But anyway, they're down a little bit now. That I think when I looked, they're roughly 80 cents a marker. So they're a little better priced right now. So begrudgingly, I will say I don't have as much beef with them right now. But when they jack up those prices, there are, if you are starting out with alcohol markers and you're starting out with coloring and you haven't tried even just, you don't even know if you like alcohol markers on in a coloring book. There are so many other markers out there that work. The biggest thing is just finding an alcohol marker that won't yellow the paper. Um, and quality changes over the years. Ohuhu may be fine now, but if inflation continues to go up, they might start cheapening out on their stuff and stuff start yellowing. You don't know. I'm not saying it yellows right now. Their black marker does. Now, the 216 set I have, their black marker does yellow. And that really makes me mad. But, you know, the biggest thing with alcohol markers is just finding a set that won't yellow the other pages around what you're coloring. But there are so many others out there. There's like CaliArt. If you're looking for starting out with coloring with alcohol markers, or you're just looking for a simple set that you can do color by numbers and stuff with, um, I think Ohuhu's overpriced for that type of stuff. Because again, you run out of certain colors and you have to buy the whole set again. Unless they happen to have that one particular refill available, which sounds to me like that is not happening very quickly. But there's CaliArt, there's Hotu, Sanjoki, and then one called SFAIH. I've heard people talk about all of those. Well, again, quality can change over time, so I say all this with take with a grain of salt. But a lot of those markers are a little more inexpensive. They're smaller sets. I'm not saying they have hundreds and hundreds of markers available, but if you know, you don't have to, I feel like we're in this stuck in this universe where if you color with alcohol markers, you have to color with only Ohuhu or somehow you're missing out, or that's not, you know, that's not the only game in town. You also don't have to buy brush markers. I would try them, But if you're just starting out, you might find you like chisel tip and the fine tips better. Those generally tend to be cheaper than the brush markers. Um, and then I made a comment about the Woomer pencils, how I do love them, but they're in a kind of a weird situation where they're priced almost to the level of a Prismacolor, but I don't, they're as close to a Prismacolor as I've found, but I feel like if you wait for Prismacolors to go on sale, you can just get Prismacolors and get 17 more colors in it. And then they're not budget friendly enough to be called budget. Like people call Hoo Hoo budget markers. They are not budget markers, not at the prices they're selling. Like you got to find markers at 50, in my opinion, 50 cents or less to be considered budget. But again, these are all my opinions. Oh my goodness. I know some people are gonna be foaming at the mouth about that. And again, I have Ohuhu markers. I like them. The set I bought has been a workhorse set. They do last. But all these other marker brands I talk about, the Cali Arts have lasted. The Hotus lasted me a good long time. I've heard good things about Sanjoki and the other set I mentioned. Um, so I mean, and then, like I said, a lot of people here will say Holbein pencils, and I'm not paying $600 for colored pencils, but colored pencils aren't my primary thing to color with. If they were down to the 300 they were, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I might would. Now, after all this time I've had and experience I've had, just knowing what I like and what I don't like, I would buy a couple open stock and try them. But there's no point in me doing that now because I am not spending $600 on a set of pencils. However, I will spend that and more on Copic markers because that, again, it's not about gatekeeping and it's not about saying, you know, nobody should buy this one product if that's truly what you like. I just am giving you, like, from my years of experience and like what I use and what I don't, my thought on these. Okay. I told you this is gonna be a long one. Maybe I will have to hold the other stuff. True or false? You don't need, okay, true or false, this is gonna be not probably a straight answer on any of these. One, you don't need to swatch supplies. If you're just coloring, like, I just need a green, or I just need a blue, or I just need a, like a color by number or something, you don't need a swatch. Um, but if you're, like, doing a specific color palette, or you are, really looking for specific, like I want more of a blue green color, or I want more of a pinkish violet than red violet, then I would say it's very important that you swatch. Hang on just a second, because I don't know of any supplies at this point. Taking a bite of toast. I am starving. I should have ate before I started this. Hang on. Shouldn't have done that. I don't know of any supply where I can look at it and it's actually the color that it is when you scribble it on the paper. And so for me, swatching is important. It's a pain in the butt. I hate it. But especially if I can find swatching by color families, because that makes picking 3 or 4 to shade, pencils to shade with or markers to blend with, so much easier when you can see them together with their similar color families. I think that makes it so not only swatching, but like finding swatches. Color with Claire does them. Sugar Sweet on his Ko-fi does it. Swatching by color family, I think, also is really helpful. 2 cute and cozy books are worth the hype. I have said I am a sucker for a book of animals doing people things. Like I am. And I know that's a lot of what the cute and cozy books are. But my goodness, they have just oversaturated the market. Like we are I can it is so hard when you go on, like especially independent publishing, if you go on Amazon and you're trying to find coloring books, it's so hard to find a non cute and cozy coloring book right now. That's not AI as well, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't think the books themselves are overhyped, but I do think like the trend, the type of book is absolutely oversaturated. Um, I think it's great that it gets people into coloring and gets people started. And if all you like is cute and cozy, I love that for you. I will like your pages. I will think they're adorable. Trust and believe. Wherever you like to color, most of the time, even if I don't like to color it, I like watching other people color those things. So if that's all you like, that's fantastic. But there are so many other artists and there are so many other ways to do coloring books and art styles and things out there other than cute animals doing people things. Um, and I can't believe I'm saying this. It's bad if I'm saying that because I'm bad about that genre myself. But I mean, just there's Kirby Rosanna's, there's Joanna Basford, there's Deborah Muller, there's Alexandra Franzese, Joshua Dunbar. Some of them have, and I think it's good for artists to challenge themselves. So like a couple of them have done things in the cute and cozy genre to really, I've never been an artist, trying to live off my own work, but I imagine that if there are trends, you want to challenge yourself, as an artist, you probably want to challenge yourself, but, also try out a similar type trend just to see what your approach is to it. I've seen a lot of people take and change the cute and cozy kind of concept to some different things based on their style, and I think that's awesome. But there are so many other types of books and things out there that get lost in the shuffle of cute and cozy and also AI books, but that is a different question and a different argument. Um, Three, collecting coloring books is part of the hobby. No, it's not part of the hobby. If you are somebody that you want to color and you want to color for fun, and you go to the dollar store, and you're like, I can get this little set of markers and this, you know, Bendon actually is a pretty decent, has pretty decent paper for a dollar store book. Or you have a kid's coloring book that has the really thin kind of grayish paper and, and you want to color in that and you just want to color in that one book. Like, you are a colorist. You don't have to have more than a page in front of you to color to be a colorist or to have coloring as your hobby. Um, Collecting coloring books, I think, is a whole nother part of it. Um, I wish, my big problem is, I wish I could wait for artists to put out collaboration books. Like, in retrospect, and it does. So if I was smart, I would have waited for Hannah Carlson to put out like Grains of Gold, which is a collaboration of a lot of her other books, and I would have just bought like that one and worked through that for a while before I started buying some of her other books. The problem is they don't put those out till later on, and you want to get all the books, right? So I have all the, I don't know if I have all of them, but I have most of Hannah Carlson books. Kirby Rosanna, same thing. Collecting is a hobby of itself. You also a lot of times want to be supportive of independent artists. And they are, you know, their job is putting out art and coloring books, and so you want to also support them. And so you may purchase books that you're not quite ready to color in. I see it as a separate hobby. I have more than I will probably ever color in for a lifetime. I have roughly, I try to keep it to two bookshelves. But again, the thing with coloring books that's good is that they'll be around for a long time. It is just paper, really, at the end of the day. So, you know, it's not a big deal. But no, you don't have to collect books or buy a whole bunch of books to really, you know, get into coloring. By all means, I highly encourage, if you're just starting out, start out with one book or a couple pages if you want to print off stuff. See what you like, because your tastes may be different than what you think. And in terms of, there's a lot of books I like looking at what the images are, but then when it comes to me coloring those images, that's a completely different thing. I don't, you know, that's just so. That's a good way to learn what you like in a cost effective way. Four, you need social media to be able to participate in the coloring community. Boy, howdy, this is really turning into a long video. I don't think you do. I really don't. And this is why I say that. A lot of people, social media is its own little beast with its own little issues. And I hope I'm still going here. Hopefully. Yeah, it says I am. Um, Social media has its own problems. And some people simply don't want to be on it because they, you know, you go buy something or say something near your phone and suddenly you get spammed with a bunch of ads and Instagram related to what you just said. Like, some people just don't want to do that, right? They're just, but, you know, if you want to be a colorist and you want to be in the coloring community, you don't have to have social media. You don't have to show your pictures to anybody. It participating, in my opinion, is sitting there coloring a page. You're part of the coloring community. So if you never show anybody your work except like your spouse or your kids, and you watch other people, but you don't hurt, you know, you lurk maybe, because I lurk a lot. You're still participating. And there are also, there is a local coloring group that's going to meet at my library next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the next. And I'm hoping I have the time to go do that, because I don't know of anybody in my area that colors. And it's for adults and teens. And I'm so, if you have a local group in your library, in your church, a local group that can get together to color, you don't need, I mean, you can use social media for the invites, but essentially you can use email and instant messenger for that. But you can meet people in person. You can. I've had people participate through email in coloring buddy colors before, or coloring tags, and they don't have social media, but they'll share their pictures with me through email, and then I'll load them on my. They'll want me to share them on a video. I've done that. Snail mail. There's actually a number of artists that are doing like a monthly coloring club, where they'll send you a picture through the mail. I've had seen people do buddy colors through the mail, where like they'll do half a picture and then send it to somebody and they'll do the other half and stuff. Um, and then YouTube, I don't know if I necessarily call YouTube social media, because you can make comments on YouTube and like you don't necessarily have to share anything else. You can just comment. I think all those are examples of participating that you don't necessarily need like a Facebook or an Instagram for, and in some ways is probably a better for your mental health in some ways than using social media. Um, 8, 5. I'm way off. Coloring is not something you do at the same time as other stuff. Can be, can't be. I'll try to be quick here at the end. Um, I watch a lot of other coloring videos. I watch TV. I listen to stuff while I color. It would probably be better for my mental health if I just focused on what I colored sometimes, kind of be more mindful. It would probably help me relax more. Um, I could do better with that, but my ADHD tendencies have trouble with that. So that you can't. I wouldn't say there's true or false there. I would say if you are used to distracting your brain with other things while you color, maybe try the opposite, right? Like just see what it does, and you might be surprised at how it makes you feel. So, budget supplies are as good as artist quality. No, no, sorry. I complain about the price, artist quality, but for me, um, because of my health issues, my tendonitis, my flare ups in my arms and my back, I cannot use budget quality pencils. Low budget quality pencils. Like, I don't, as much as I would like to have the Crayola pencils, I just simply can't color with them. They don't give me enough color payout for the pressure that I need to put down. I just don't. And some people would be like, well, you just learn to color with them in a different way. Well, that's not what I like to do. It's not, if I'm not going to enjoy it, then I'll never use them. It's not necessarily that. It's like I have to find a compromise between how I enjoy coloring and like what supplies help me to achieve that. And it's okay to challenge yourself and try new things. Like I do need to use less pressure on my pencils when I color, and I need, while I love other people's soft pictures that don't have a lot of, a ton of pigment in them, I color more bold, bright myself. It's a good challenge to do that, but I'm not going to do that permanently. It's just not what I enjoy doing. So, in my case, no, they're not just as good. I think there are a lot of budget level products out there that don't get a lot of hype because influencers aren't picking up on them. Like I said, there are things that are not alcohol markers or colored pencils. There's water-based markers, there's watercolors, watercolor pencils. There's all kinds of other things out there that you can use that can give you results that may be cheaper than. So, for example, here, the Karen Dash Neo Color 2s, they are artist quality. I think there are things you can get a similar look for at a lower price, but could I say you can use Crayola water-based markers on a palette and get the same results? No. I mean, there's a limit to that. Um, but yeah, no, that's my thought on that. And then the last question kind of grinds my gears. The quality of completed pages compromises, the quantity of completed pages compromises the quality. And this is why it bothers me. What is quality, right? Like, what are we saying here? Quality to me is making a definition that if somebody's page doesn't look a certain way, it's not quality. Um, you coloring in a kid's coloring book with Crayola super tips. If you like the page and you're happy with it and you have fun coloring it, that's quality. If you did a tutorial through My Colorful Country Life and you spent 40 hours on a page and it looks almost like a photograph because it's so well shaded and detailed and you were proud of it and you enjoyed doing it, that's a quality picture. Um, this question gets murky when you start associating a certain level of colored page to quality. So in saying that, I'm saying no, it doesn't affect it. If you colored 3 pages with water-based markers and just flat colored and you had fun, that's both quality and you're happy with that amount. That's all or that's all you had time for. Then nothing got compromised. If you did 40 pages and they're all like you were able to spend hours on them. You lucky person you is all I got to say. then, you know, you're not compromising anything. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my thing there. All right. Where are we at? Okay. Couple other things. If you're still listening, most of this is coloring companies. So these are extra things that just really grind my gears about coloring and art and accessibility. Um, so expanding sets. I talked about this earlier. I have stopped buying 72 sets of color pencils because I have learned 72 colors are not enough for the way I like to color. I don't want to sit there and blend colors together and do layers and layers and layers to achieve other colors. I just want the colors in a pencil that I can pick up. And again, people gatekeep that. They think, oh, you're not really doing it right if you don't want to blend things or you don't want to take the slow way of doing things. No, not here. I'm not gatekeeping any of that. You find what you like and you go with it. But I just I've been burned too many times by buying a 72 set and then them coming out with an expanded set and not giving you the pencils that would allow you to just buy the additional pencils that you need instead of buying the whole set over again and then having 72 duplicates but not backups of the whole set. Like, that just drives me nuts. Karen Dash, one of the biggest beasts I have with Neocolor 2s is they had, and I don't know if this has changed, but the last time I checked, they were having special colors due to like an anniversary or something. But they weren't going to put the colors in an expanded, little set that you could buy just of those new colors. No, no, they were going to incorporate them into sets of the previous colors. So, like, you would get if you already had the 84, you would have to buy a set of 8 or 10 or however many, get 8 duplicates and then 2 of the new colors. And it wasn't all in one set, so you would have to buy so many sets to get those. And some people will do that. And if you want to do that and you are going to use them and stuff, oh, okay, fantastic. I am not judging you, but that is such a cash grab by that company. And it ticks me off because their stuff is already way expensive anyway. It's good. It's quality. I don't deny that, but they went from silly prices to stupid prices. Um, so special limited edition color sets, special expanded sets of colored pencils, of markers. Oh, who drives me crazy with this because they're like, oh, to have all our colors, you have to have, Honolulu set A and B, but then you also have to have the Oahu 180 set over here, and you have to have the pastel set, and you have to have just put it all in one set. Like, why is this so hard? I'm not saying don't have smaller sets available for people to try and use, but like, stop doing this mess where people have to buy like 5 or 6 different things to get everything. Like the Woomer pencils, again, just give us the 133 in a set. Don't do this 90 and 72 and then you get like 29 duplicates. Like, what the heck? Anyway, it's cash grab and it ticks me off. Um, Getting rid of what makes you popular. Um, this is in particular to certain publishing companies, certain coloring book publishers. When I first started coloring, I loved Jade Summer. I was Jade Summer's biggest fan, and I talked about them all the time. And then they became popular over the years. They started becoming more and more popular. Cute and Cozy hit the market. Suddenly, that was all they do. And then all their other books went out of print. Um, and they're Amazon printed, right? So like, unless there was a copyright issue or something, they had to take them down. It wasn't like it was really. I don't think it costs. I could be wrong, but I don't think it costs artists anything to list something on Amazon and just keep it listed. But like, they made a concentrated effort to take all their old books off that weren't cute and cozy. And then in their coloring groups, they wouldn't let you post from those old books. And that just, why would you do that, right? Like, if you want to rebrand yourself, okay, but like, you're just kicking people in the face that liked what you used to do. Jade Summer was bad about that. Coco Wyo was bad about that. I got rid of just about every book I own from both of them. Plus, they contract artists. They're getting better about listing artists. I think Jade Summer in particular, but like, I don't particularly like that either. I would prefer an artist be clearly labeled. It's okay if an artist goes with a publisher. I like Cider Mill Press, Creative Haven. I like all those, but they obviously show who the artist is. And I know for sure it's an actual artist too. There's a lot of coloring book artists now that are fake names that are either AI or some publishing company contracted a bunch of people on the cheap to draw these, and you'll never know who the actual artists are. There are Jade Summer books that had like their old chibi girls and like grayscale. Those of you been around a while, you remember those that were like their chibi, their grayscale books, their kawaii girls books? Man, those things were like fire. Like everybody was coloring in those, and they were fantastic. And now they're gone. And I have no idea who originally created that art, and I don't know if we ever will. Unfortunately, I don't think there are some artists that have went out on their own, and I'm happy for that, but I wish some of them had done that. Anyway, I'll specifically call them out because I have issue with that, and I will forever. Um, Another thing, again, AI. I have liked pictures people have colored AI books. If you like AI books, that's fine. My biggest pet peeve is that AI and Cute and Cozy are oversaturating Amazon's, making it almost impossible to search for varieties of coloring books from all these other artists and publishers. And they are not clearly labeled as AI. Why? 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 What's the problem? If somebody likes AI anyway, it's not going to make a difference to them if you listed it as AI or not. And if they don't like AI, then that informs the consumer, and it's not that they're not going to purchase a coloring book, they're just not going to purchase that coloring book. And I've gotten burned myself a few times on these. Again, you get these names, artists that look like artists, because they'll make up a name and it'll all be AI books. And like, there's no way you can really tell because they don't post screenshots of the art. They don't have any indication on there that they're AI. I'm not saying get rid of them. I'm just saying clearly label them. Make the artists acknowledge them. You look, Amazon does plenty of investigations on the artists that sell independent through their KDP independent publishing platform, because a number of artists that I know have gotten have had a lot of issues where they had their independent work challenge. They've had people make copies of their books and sell them. They've had their accounts closed for things that aren't legitimate, and it's taken all kinds of it's taken a lot to get their accounts back up. So they have enough resources to do all that research and make things problematic enough. Then they have the resources to make sure that people that flag their stuff as AI really did, or people that didn't flag their stuff as AI aren't lying. Like, it's ridiculous. That also comes down to the limited edition availability of things. We used to have Book Depository that got bought out. Right now we have Lyrica, thank goodness. We have like Book Outlet as an option, but I'm worried about those types of companies being bought out. It's happening with everything where for any product you buy, everything's being pulled under one company, so you don't have options. And so it makes limited edition books or books from Europe or Japan or Korea harder to get unless you go through that company and you pay through the nose for shipping. Um, Finally, last thing, algorithms. This was going back to the social media thing. I do not want to have to create a separate social media account for just coloring. I like some people do, and that's fine. But I like a lot of different things. But social media drives me crazy right now because I have so many people I have followed that are colorists, and the algorithm never wants to show me their stuff. It always wants to show me new stuff, and it's always unless it's somebody that's went viral for something that I have that I follow, they'll show them. But it's always new stuff, and if I like one or two particular things, I'm stuck in that rabbit hole until I reset it or whatever. It is very hard for me to see people's finished coloring pages on Instagram. And the Facebook groups are, the groups themselves aren't problematic, but like, again, the Facebook algorithm never wants me to show me the things that I want to see. And it doesn't give me the option to select and customize what I want to see. And so I get it if a lot of people don't want to use social media, and especially because they're just farming all that data. Um, I get why a lot of people don't want to use social media, and I use it just because I'm antisocial and it's the way I connect with people. But even that, it is frustrating for me. So, all right, I think I think I've said enough at this point. I also I will say the coloring community has been the least problematic online community I've ever been a part of. And I am a 90s gal. I've been around, early days of Reddit, early days of forums and tech stuff and all kinds of nerd culture stuff online. It doesn't matter, usually it doesn't matter what type of thing you like, what type of hobby you like, there's always problems, there's always drama. The coloring community has had the least amount of drama of any community I've been a part of, but inevitably drama will happen, and we all want to swoop in and be, defensive, and it just, I don't know, I social media as a whole is just so, everybody's so angry right now. It's crazy. Like, it just, it's going back to just like what you like. Let other people like what they like. If it doesn't match what you think is the right way to do things, then just go on about your business and go do the things that you like to do, or go watch the people that do the things you like, and just let people live their lives. Like, I just don't understand how I barely have time to color due to energy levels, due to work, due to life, and my other hobbies, my other things going on. I don't have a lot of time to color. And it's like I have even less time to leave comments on people's videos, like just bashing the way they're doing things and saying, well, you're not, you're taking up all the artist grade stuff, and you're doing this and doing that, and like we're just so busy like criticizing and griping at other people and just making judgment calls on people. And I just don't understand. And there are people that do that like all day every day on multiple videos. And I mean, okay, I guess if that's what you want to do. If you want to spend your life being angry, I mean, again, ultimately I'm not going to judge it, but just I guess this is a um kind of PSA for, like, hey, maybe we're all angry. The world is a dumpster fire right now, but maybe we just, the world is dumpster fire and a lot of it's out of our control, and we feel like we can't control any of it or change any of it, and we're just having to suffer through it. Maybe the change we can do is to lift each other up a little bit more. to be a little more supportive of each other, to see somebody else being happy about something and having joy about something and being happy for them. And if you can't do that, at least just move on to the next post, to the next video. I'm not saying you have to be kind or you have to do those things. I'm just saying, like, if you can't even do that, maybe just go to another video, find another creator you like, find another post that is more in your style, and just, that will make you, I would think that would make you feel better too, but I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Okay. I think I got it all out, y'all. I was trying to look. I'm like, is there anything else here on this list? This has been a pretty long list. Who knows what I've been coloring while I've been doing this. But hopefully, I can come on here at the end and show the finished picture and wrap this up. So I guess that's what we're going to do. All right, let's say you were interested in the pictures I was coloring. You got things to do and can't sit there and listen to me rant and rave all day. That's fair. That's why it's out here on the internet. If you want to come back later, you can. If you are done, that's fine too. But you want to see the finished pictures? Here, I got you. I got you, fam. The mystery cats, I did 2 layers on this handsome little fella or gal. The background reminds me of the Sorcier's picture I did with the cat. I really like the purple and the pink with, like, I don't know, this just bright colors. But I thought the intersection of the dark kind of maroon and such. This is more of a lavender gray, but I didn't really have that, so I kind of went with as close approximation as possible with my gray utility art set. So it probably would look a little more matchy if I had really been able to get that purple, but we ain't stressing. And then I used a white gel pen to kind of take out the little transparent lines around the white areas. So really fun picture. Very simple pictures in this book, by the way. If you like cats, but you don't necessarily want the Disney Cats book, which is what I use on the regular for simple pictures, this might be a good one. Some very interesting compositions in here. And they're not super complicated pictures, so I do enjoy that. Matchstick Mouse. I'm going to have to spray this with pastel pencil. It definitely rubs off very easily, especially if you're sticking your bare hand all over it. So you'll see me in the picture I was coloring with like an artist glove to avoid that. But yeah, it gives real subtle shading, but I like the effect. And as you saw in the video, it's very quick. Normally I add some little gel pen and stuff, but I just wasn't feeling it for this picture. And yeah, I'm so glad he's no longer sunburned, the poor little hedgehog. He's purple. That may not be a natural color, but that's okay. I think I like that he's kind of the star of the show in this, and where there are more natural colors everywhere else other than the blue hat, he kind of stands out. So, and you also get a sneak peek at a picture I'm going to post on Instagram later this week. This was the original picture I was coloring for this video out of Color Me Capybaras. I did this chill little guy. Had a lot of fun with that. It's markers and then a little bit of the Pentel dual metallic for some shine. Had a lot of fun with that and the colors. Just wanted something fun and tropical. I will say I used my Copic markers in this book, and I did not like how they went on this paper. They were not very smooth. Some coloring paper is weird. I just had it in my hand. I've noticed if you have any of these, like the Color by Numbers and Doodles by St. Martin's Griffin, this also, if you have art markers that put out less ink, like the ink is more controlled than in, say, a Cali Art or an Ohuhu marker, which the ink flows more freely. Some paper gets really streaky with them, and it makes me feel like it's really drying out the marker, and that was kind of the experience I had with the Copics on this. So I will not be using Copics in my cider mill press books. That's perfectly fine. I have plenty of other, I have Cali Arts and Ohuhus and plenty of other markers that work beautifully in these books, but I do just want to give a heads up that they are not a fun experience coloring in these books. However, I use them in my Amazon books all the time. I like how they work, and they don't give me a lot of trouble. So, you know, I'm not saying anything bad about them per se. They work fine on some textured paper, but this paper in particular, it's just something about it. So anyway, you got to see a little sneak peek of that. All right. I had to record this again because the audio didn't record right. So the like 10 minutes of yapping I had, you guys get to miss out on that. Oh, actually, I remember what I did say. That was, you know, if you're curious, I'm going to have kind of like a coloring book flip through mini haul. My birthday was May 20th, so I have a handful of books to flip through, and then I got a few coloring related things, and I might even show you the woobles I got because I'm really excited about those, the crochet things. So it'll kind of be a mini haul, but it'll have full flip throughs of the books, either at the beginning or the end, depending on what I'm in the mood for. Should have that by the middle of the week. I'm waiting on one book to show up today. Hopefully complete pages next weekend, and then maybe a color and chat after that, middle of the week. If everything goes okay. I've had a rough couple weeks, but that is my nice to have plan. So we shall see. Anyway, yeah, this was a lot better. Man, I need to do this more often. Not on long videos, but on my shorter videos, if I do clips, I should record it once and then record it again, and y'all would probably get a lot less rambling. Anyway, thanks for watching. Any portion of this is always appreciated. The, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, we're not going to get into all that. Okay, thanks, and talk to you soon. Bye for now.